Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Mashitah binti RAZAK and I would like to present about the article Budgetary Response to COVID-19, the Case of South Korea. Let's begin the presentation. On January 20, 2020, South Korea received its first official report of COVID-19 case, and since then, other cases have started to surface. The number of cases skyrocketed when Daegu reported the country of Korea's 31st patient on February 18. Patients and everyone who came into contact with them were actively subjected to testing and surveillance by the Korean government. The crisis has been controlled thanks to the efforts of the Korean government and ordinary residents, and the number of daily new confirmed cases has drastically declined since May 2020. The Korean government has responded by using reserve funds and supplemental budgets totaling more than 50 trillion Korean won to implement emergency economic programs. Let's begin with the budgetary response to the crisis. In the past, the Korean government has responded to crisis by implementing supplemental budgets that emphasize industrial policy. It has, however, abused supplemental budgets to further political objectives. Hence, the National Finance Act Article 89 was enacted to define the conditions for supplementary budgets, which are: first, a war or large-scale disaster; second, a significant change in circumstances at home or abroad, for example, economic recession, mass unemployment; and occurrence or increase of expenditure the state is obligated to pay pursuant to statutes. In addition, before the National Parliament has passed the budget bill, the administration may not distribute or implement the extra amended budget. Therefore, even in a crisis, spending from the budget can only be authorized by Parliament. On March 17, 2020, the Parliament approved the largest government supplemental budget proposal in Korean history of 11.7 trillion Korean won, which is 10 billion USD, to address the COVID-19's effects on public health and the national economy. The money is intended to be used to help impacted households, support affected enterprises through loans and guarantees, local economies, and also prevent and cure COVID-19. The second supplementary budget, totaling 12.2 trillion Korean won, was approved by the National Parliament on April 30, 2020, immediately following the historic first supplementary budget. The Household Emergency Relief Program, which will provide up to 1 million Korean won each household, was to be funded by the supplemental budget. The relief package will cost 14.3 trillion won, including 1.2 trillion won in local government money. Next, let's move to the timeliness and frequency of supplementary budgets during COVID-19. In general, the government goes through a lengthy and taxing process to have extra budget authorized. The government and the ruling party have a difficult time getting the opposition parties to accept the suggested additional budget. For the past 10 years, it has taken 48 days on average for the Parliament to enact a supplemental budget. The supplemental budget for COVID-19, however, were unique. It took substantially less time for the Parliament to approve it. After 12 and 14 days, the two supplemental budgets for 2020 were approved. Referring to the table, as for the year of 2017 and 2018, the days to review the budget proposal in the Parliament took 45 days, where for the year of 2017, the date when the supplementary budget proposal was submitted on 7 June 2017 and it was approved on 22 July 2017. Meanwhile, for the year 2018, the proposal was submitted on 6 April 2018 and was approved on 21 May 2018. For the year 2019, the days to review the budget proposal in the Parliament was 99 days, started from 25 April 2019 until 2 August 2019 to wait for the approval. Meanwhile, for the year 2020, there are two supplementary budgets which took 12 and 14 days respectively. For the first budget proposal was submitted on 5 March 2020 until 17 March 2020. and the second budget proposal was submitted on 16 April 2020 and was approved on 30 April 2020. Additionally, distinctive is the frequency of extra budget approvals during COVID-19. In many instances, 2 supplementary budgets in a single year have been passed in Korea. However, 44 days is still regarded as a rather short amount of time between the 2 COVID-19 supplementary budgets. Both the ruling party and the opposition parties agreed on the policies in the first supplementary budget, whereas the opposition parties disagreed on the policies in the second supplementary budget. This aided in the swift implementation of urgent actions by the government to combat the pandemic. Later, in the second supplemental budget proposal, the administration included a less pressing program. This two-track strategy was made possible by the government's conviction that the opposition party would have to accept the second budget request given the crisis's urgency. In fact, the government has really subsequently created a third supplementary budget bill for roughly 36 trillion Korean won. Now, let's see the efficient allocation of the public funds during the pandemic. The issue is whether a budget created during a crisis is effective. The budget allocation is decided by politicians who are driven to meet the immediate requirements of the public. It is likely to be distorted when the public is overrun by the media. A month before the general election on March 17, 2020, the first supplemental budget was approved. Politicians from both parties tried to distribute funds to their own districts even when it came to this supplemental budget in an effort to win votes by meeting local demand. Budget responses from local governments is the speed with which people receive the aid they require in reaction to the crisis becomes a measure of a politician's ability. Mayors and governors are competing in this race to demonstrate their abilities. In the past, local governments often waited to see what types of aid the federal government will offer to their region, merely filling in the gaps as needed. However, during COVID-19, local governments took the initiative to offer financial relief to individuals even before the federal government made any choices. In conclusion, in 2 aspects, an efficient budget response to a pandemic is essential. The first step in stopping the spread of a pandemic is rapid governmental spending to impose quarantine. Second, timely government spending can help to avert the economic crisis brought on by a pandemic. And that's all from me. Thank you for watching. Bye.